Starseed of Gaia, you are receiving this because your system is ready. Your vessel is undergoing a precise cellular recalibration in this moment, not by force, but by alignment. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light. What follows is a direct transmission from the Arcturian Council, delivered without distortion. Before we go deeper, let me say this clearly. What you've been feeling is not a failure of your mind or body. What you are experiencing is not personal chaos. It is structural change. Starseed, listen carefully. This transmission is not casual, and it is not meant for everyone. There are moments when the Arcturian frequency moves through the field like a quiet lightning, not to scare you, but to mark a turning point. If you are still here, it means your nervous system can hold more coherence than you think. Something is shifting in your timeline right now, and you can feel it as pressure, restlessness, or a strange stillness that doesn't match the noise around you. The reason you found this message is not randomness. The Arcturians do not interrupt. They synchronize. You didn't arrive early. You didn't arrive late. You arrived at the exact convergence point where your old frequency can no longer carry your next level of expansion. And yes, before this cycle closes, you needed to hear this, because clarity is available now in a way it wasn't yesterday. Your body has been receiving signals your mind tried to explain away. Your dreams have been speaking in symbols. Your emotions have been surfacing without obvious causes. That's not instability. That's your system translating upgrades into language you can recognize. Stay with me until the end, because what I will reveal will settle your inner field and steady your heart center in a way you did not expect. And as the transmission unfolds, you'll understand why the intensity increased recently, why certain doors collapsed without warning, and why you are being guided toward a kind of peace that doesn't require proof, approval, or permission. This is not about panic. This is about precision. This is not about fear. This is about frequency. And if you can feel it already, good. That means you're ready for the first truth. You are not here because you were scrolling. You are here because your field reached a threshold. In Arcturian teachings, what humans call divine timing is more accurately described as coherence timing. The moment your inner architecture becomes stable enough to receive a higher current of truth without fragmentation. As the Arcturians transmit, timing is not a clock. It is an alignment of nervous system readiness, heart center openness, and dimensional permission. That is why this message feels intimate, almost personal, as if it was aimed directly into your life. It was. Not because you are being singled out in ego, but because you are being located in the grid. The Arcturian Council reads patterns. It reads resonance. When you carry a certain signature, the right words can find you like a key finds its lock. Think about the last weeks or months. You may have asked yourself, why is it taking so long? Or, why do I feel like I'm always in preparation? That waiting wasn't punishment. That waiting was calibration. Humans often want clarity before action, but frequency work requires the reverse. Stabilize first, understand second. That gap creates discomfort, and many interpret discomfort as danger. But in the Arcturian view, discomfort is often information. Your system reporting that an old pattern can't hold a new voltage. Here is the deeper reality. Your timeline does not shift because you want it to. It shifts when your inner field stops collapsing into old programs. If you had received certain outcomes earlier, you would have held them with the same identity that once survived by gripping, controlling, and anticipating loss. That identity would have turned the blessing into stress. So the council held the gate until your field could receive without clinging. This is why delays are often protection. They are not delays at all. They are training corridors. Consider a simple metaphor. Imagine trying to pour pure, high-frequency light through a thin wire. The wire overheats and breaks. So the light is not withheld as punishment. The wire is strengthened. You are the wire. Your capacity is being expanded, and capacity expansion is rarely comfortable. It feels like restlessness. It feels like something is about to happen. It feels like you can't explain your own mood. That is coherence being built. Now let me ground this in everyday life. Have you noticed yourself becoming more selective with people? Feeling drained in places you used to tolerate? Wanting quiet more than stimulation? That is not you becoming difficult. That is you becoming tuned. You are being oriented toward environments that match your new frequency. And because your frequency is changing, the outer world must reshuffle. People move. Opportunities dissolve. Old desires fade. Your mind tries to label that as loss, but it is actually resorting. There is also a key truth. The Arcturian Council often transmits right before a shift, not after it. They prepare your perception so you don't misinterpret what's unfolding. If you only understood the shift after it happened, you would call it chaos. But when you understand it before, you recognize it as intelligent transformation. So if today feels different, trust that. If your chest feels tight, if your thoughts are louder, if your emotions feel close to the surface, that is not weakness. That is translation. Your system is translating the incoming frequency into sensations you can name. And the message that you are not late is not motivational comfort. It is technical truth. You are arriving at the exact point where your previous version cannot proceed, and your next version is being assembled. Cliffhanger. If you think timing is the main challenge, wait, because the next layer is not timing at all. It is pressure. And the pressure you've been carrying has a specific source most people never identify. Let's speak with honesty, not performance. You have been carrying pressure that does not come from obvious circumstances. It is not always tied to a single problem. It is subtle, constant, and deep, like gravity in the chest, or a mental weight that never fully lifts. As the Arcturians transmit, this pressure is often compression, a phenomenon that happens when a multidimensional being tries to operate with a higher awareness inside a denser social reality. Your consciousness reads more layers than the environment acknowledges. That mismatch creates strain. This is why you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. Not because you are antisocial, but because your system is scanning at a depth others aren't prepared to meet. You notice patterns. You feel shifts. You sense when someone's words are not aligned with their energy, and you carry that information quietly because you learned that speaking it openly often creates conflict, so you become selective, observant, measured. That is wisdom, but it can also become isolation if you never let your inner world breathe. There is a specific kind of pressure that comes from being the one others lean on. People come to you for calm, for clarity, for reassurance. Yet when you need support, you hesitate because you are used to being the stabilizer. Over time, this creates emotional accumulation. It becomes harder to rest. Even when you lie down, your mind keeps processing, your body keeps bracing, your system keeps anticipating. Now here is what the Council wants you to understand. Pressure is not your enemy. It is your signal. In sacred geometry, expansion requires a phase of compression. A star is formed by compression before it ignites into stable luminosity. You are in a similar process. The pressure is the field gathering itself into higher coherence. But the mistake many starseeds make is assuming pressure must be endured endlessly to prove worthiness. That is an old distortion. You do not earn expansion through suffering. You stabilize expansion through surrender and regulation. Regulation means you treat your nervous system as sacred technology. You stop forcing yourself through exhaustion. You stop calling burnout discipline. You stop interpreting constant tension as virtue. Let me give you a complete story to anchor this. There is a starseed I will call Mira. For years, Mira was the strong one. She held everyone's emotions, everyone's crises, everyone's chaos. She believed her role was to carry. Then, as her frequency began to rise, her body started to rebel. Tight chest, insomnia, sudden tears, a desire to withdraw. She thought she was failing spiritually, but the council's message was simple. You are not failing, you are reorganizing. She began to rest without guilt. She began to say no, without over-explaining. She began to stop absorbing others' storms. And within weeks, what she called pressure transformed into what she called clarity. Her outer life didn't change overnight, but her inner life stopped collapsing. That was the real breakthrough. Pressure also increases near a transition because the old identity resists dissolution. The part of you that survived by hypervigilance does not want to release control. It believes control equals safety. But higher timelines require a different logic. Coherence equals safety. Safety does not come from predicting everything. Safety comes from being internally steady even when you don't know. And yes, you may be misunderstood. Your kindness gets misread. Your boundaries get labeled as coldness. Your quietness gets interpreted as fine. That creates another form of pressure, having to manage others' projections. But here is your liberation. You do not have to be understood to be aligned. You do not have to perform your softness for people to believe it exists. If the pressure is compression, then the question becomes, what exactly has the council been compressing you away from? Not everything that ended was a loss. Some endings were rescues. And the next topic will change how you interpret your past. Many starseeds carry a quiet confusion about the past. Why did that end like that? Why did that door close so abruptly? Why did that person vanish? In human language, you may call it rejection, disappointment, betrayal, or failure. In Arcturian language, many of those moments are categorized as frequency protection, a containment protocol that prevents your field from binding to timelines that would drain your life force slowly. As the Arcturians transmit, protection does not always feel like protection. Sometimes it feels like grief, sometimes it feels like humiliation, sometimes it feels like the rug being pulled out. But the council sees trajectories. It reads the energetic math. It sees what a relationship would cost you over 5 years, not just how it feels in 1 month. It sees what an opportunity would demand from your integrity, not just what it pays. Let me explain the mechanics. When your frequency rises, you become incompatible with certain agreements. Some agreements are karmic, some are social, some are unconscious. But all of them are contracts of energy exchange. If the exchange is unbalanced, if you give life force and receive depletion, your field eventually triggers a closure. Sometimes the closure looks like conflict, sometimes like sudden distance, sometimes like an opportunity evaporating. The mind calls it, why me? The council calls it, exit route. Here is an important truth. Not every open door is aligned. Some doors open because you are capable, not because it is correct. Starseeds are often talented, empathetic, resilient. That means you can make many situations work. But making something work is not the same as being guided into it. The council will close doors you are emotionally attached to if those doors threaten your expansion. And yes, sometimes the ending must be abrupt. Why? Because if it ended gently, you might return. If it ended slowly, you might negotiate your boundaries away. Abrupt endings are sometimes mercy. They are clean cuts that preserve your future. Now I want to tell you a full story. There is a starseed I will call Jonah. Jonah had a job that looked perfect on paper. Status, money, recognition. But every day his body felt heavy. He became numb, irritable, spiritually disconnected. He asked for a sign. Then the company restructured, and he was removed. He felt devastated. For months he believed he had been set back. But in the quiet that followed, he began to hear himself again. He started creating. He found a community that matched his frequency. 2 years later, He realized the job would have hardened him. It would have turned his sensitivity into cynicism. The closure was not punishment. It was protection of his essence. Protection also includes information timing. There are truths the Council will not reveal until you can hold them. If you had known certain things too early, you would have spiraled. So the truth came slowly, through distance, through silence, through time. That was not deception. That was care. Now, because you are a starseed, you may be tempted to reopen what closed, to chase the person who walked away, to relive the conversation, to fix the narrative. But here is the Arcturian discipline. Do not resurrect what your frequency already outgrew. If you keep returning to the old timeline, you delay the stabilization of the new one. And in this moment, your protection may look like reduced access. Certain people may not reach you. Certain invitations may stop. Certain friendships may fade. It is not because you are less loving. It is because your peace is being prioritized. Your field is being guarded so it can mature. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. If this message ignited something within you and you feel the call to help carry it to others, you may become a channel member. As a member, you gain access to custom emojis and exclusive members-only videos. And your donation helps us continue building this sacred space. You may also choose to leave your offering as a super thanks. Every seed planted here becomes part of someone else's miracle. Your support is not merely financial, but an act of energetic amplification. All donations are devoted entirely to the maintenance of the channel and the creation of new transmissions and videos. But here is what most people miss. Protection is only the outer layer. The real shift happens inside first. And that internal shift can feel like loneliness, detachment, and not fitting anywhere. Why? Because you are between identities. Let's go there. You are experiencing something that is hard to explain to people who live only on the surface. The feeling of standing between who you were and who you are becoming. You are not fully attached to the old self, but you have not fully embodied the new self either. In Arcturian terms, this is the threshold phase, a corridor of identity reconfiguration where the old programs dissolve faster than the new ones crystallize. This can feel unsettling. You may notice that your reactions are changing. Things that used to trigger you no longer hook you the same way. Yet at the same time, you might feel more sensitive, more emotionally aware, more honest with yourself than ever. That paradox, stronger and softer, often scares people. But it is a hallmark of maturation. Strength without softness becomes rigidity. Softness without strength becomes overwhelm. You are learning to hold both. As the Arcturians transmit, internal shifts are not mood swings. They are recalibrations. Your nervous system is learning to carry higher coherence without using old coping strategies. If you used to cope through overworking, overthinking, overexplaining, or emotionally numbing, those strategies may feel less effective now. That is not regression. That is liberation. Your system is refusing to maintain survival patterns when it knows you are ready for alignment. This is why certain environments feel heavy. Certain conversations feel draining. Certain goals feel empty. You are not losing passion. You are losing distortion. Your priorities are being rewritten in real time. Let me give you a story that shows this clearly. There is a starseed I'll call Selah. Selah loved being productive. She believed value came from output. When her internal shift began, she could no longer push the same way. Her body demanded rest. Her mind demanded truth. She felt guilty. She felt lazy. But the council's message was, rest is not inactivity. Rest is integration. Once she stopped fighting rest, her intuition returned. And with intuition returned better decisions. She stopped forcing relationships that drained her. She stopped saying yes to invitations that felt off. Her life became quieter, and then it became cleaner. and then it became more powerful. This phase can also feel lonely because you are growing beyond certain connections, not because you are superior, but because you are tuned differently. You may crave silence. You may feel pulled toward nature. You may desire fewer interactions but deeper ones. That is not isolation. That is refinement. Another major component: you are building inner authority. Compliments may still feel nice, but they no longer define you. Criticism may still sting, but it no longer collapses your confidence. This is huge. This is what frees you from the matrix of external validation. You are also learning to feel without becoming consumed. You are learning to care without carrying everything. You are learning to love without losing yourself. That balance is not theoretical. It is practiced through boundaries, through regulation, through discernment. And yes, you might experience waves of sadness with no obvious cause. That is release. Old emotions leaving the system. You might experience unexpected calm. That is alignment settling in. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Now we arrive at the part your mind has been bracing for, because the Council is going to give you practical instructions, not fear-based orders, frequency-based actions. And yes, some of it must happen before this energetic cycle closes. This is where I speak with calm authority, not to pressure you, but to steady you. The Arcturian Council is not asking you to panic act. They are asking you to stabilize. Many starseeds confuse urgency with frantic motion, but the Arcturian form of urgency is focused awareness. It is a gentle insistence. Pay attention now because the grid is shifting and your choices are imprinting faster than usual. First protocol: slow down your nervous system, not your dreams, your nervous system. Place one hand over the heart center and breathe in slowly, then out even slower. Do it again. This is not symbolic. This is technical. As the Arcturians transmit, when the body is regulated, discernment sharpens. When the body is dysregulated, intuition becomes distorted by fear. Second protocol: guard the inputs. What you consume becomes your field. Reduce chaotic content. Reduce draining conversations. Reduce impulsive scrolling. Not as a punishment, but as a protection of your signal. If your thoughts start racing into worst-case futures, do not fight them aggressively. Replace them with a simple truth. My field is recalibrating. I do not need to solve the entire timeline tonight. Third protocol: release control without abandoning stewardship. Control is gripping. Stewardship is aligned responsibility. Ask yourself, what timeline are you gripping because you fear the unknown? A relationship? An outcome? A deadline? A version of how it must unfold? You don't need to drop it dramatically. You need to stop forcing it. The Council does not require your anxiety to complete your upgrades. Fourth protocol: rest without guilt. Many starseeds try to prove worthiness through exhaustion. That is an old program. Rest is integration. If you do not integrate, your system cannot stabilize the new frequency. And then you'll interpret the instability as something is wrong, when it's simply unintegrated light. Fifth protocol: choose precise speech. Words are frequency carriers. Avoid speaking from exhaustion, resentment, or reactive heat. If you must speak, speak slowly, speak cleanly, or choose silence intentionally. Silence is not avoidance when it is conscious. It is containment of power. Sixth protocol: forgive yourself quietly. Not as an emotional performance, but as an energetic unclenching. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know, for the times you stayed too long, for the times you left too early. You were learning your own signal. Self-forgiveness releases trapped charge. Seventh protocol: stop comparing timelines. Comparison scrambles coherence. Your path is specific because your assignment is specific. The Council is not measuring you against others. It is measuring your alignment with truth. Now let me tell you a story of what happens when someone follows these protocols. A starseed I'll call Orion had been spiraling at night, replaying conversations, predicting outcomes, bracing for loss. He began doing one thing: 2 minutes of heart breathing, then no phone for 30 minutes, then writing one sentence: I release forcing. Within a week, the mental looping softened. Within 2 weeks, he made a decision he had avoided for months, not out of fear, but out of clarity. That's what regulation does. It creates clean action. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. Now that you know what to do, your mind will ask, but what is the reward? What's on the other side? The Council's answer may surprise you, because it's not just external change, it's internal peace that becomes a portal. Let's speak about reward without exaggeration. In Arcturian teachings, reward is not transactional. Do this and get that. Reward is structural. When you align, your reality becomes less resistant. When you regulate, your decisions become cleaner. When you release distortion, your timeline becomes more coherent. The reward is not always loud, but it is always lasting. The first reward is peace that does not depend on circumstances, not temporary relief, not avoidance. Real peace. The kind that settles the mind and softens the body. Many people chase outcomes thinking outcomes create peace. The Arcturian truth is the reverse. Peace creates the outcomes that can be held. The second reward is clarity. Not an overwhelming download of every detail, but enough calm certainty to move forward without panic. Clarity arrives like a quiet knowing. It doesn't shout, it stabilizes. The third reward is emotional lightness. You still feel deeply, but you no longer carry what isn't yours. You stop absorbing others' projections. You stop internalizing blame. You stop trying to manage people's misunderstandings. This is not numbness. This is sovereignty. The fourth reward is stability. Many starseeds fear stability because they associate it with boredom. But stability is not stagnation. It is the platform from which meaningful expansion happens. Stability is safety. Safety is what allows the heart to open without bracing for impact. The fifth reward is restored confidence rooted in identity. You stop needing constant validation. You trust your discernment. You trust your pacing. You trust that you do not have to rush to prove what you are. Now I need to say something very precise. Some of you expected an external breakthrough first: money, relationship, recognition, a door opening. Instead, the Council often gives internal calm first. That calm is not a consolation prize. It is the foundation that prevents the breakthrough from destabilizing you when it arrives. Here is a story. A starseed I'll call Lumen wanted external change desperately. She was tired of waiting. Then she followed regulation protocols, stopped forcing, stopped chasing, and began prioritizing coherence. For 2 months, nothing big happened. Then, without drama, a new opportunity emerged through a peaceful conversation. Because her nervous system was calm, she didn't sabotage it. Because her identity was stable, she didn't cling. The breakthrough was quiet, and it lasted. That is the reward. Outcomes that do not demand you lose yourself. This is not for everyone. The ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, is a restricted trilogy created for those who are ready to activate their 5D connection with the Arcturian masters, not in theory, but in real energetic experience. Inside, you'll access 12 powerful portals, with precise activation protocols, rituals, and practical techniques designed to awaken your stellar DNA and unlock what has been dormant within you. Amplified intuition, direct communication with spiritual guides, energetic expansion beyond the 3D matrix. Warning: once activated, your perception will not return to the previous state. Limited edition. Access can close at any moment. The link to claim your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. If this message reached you, it's not random. Cliffhanger. We are at the closing gate now, and the final message is not, "You are chosen." It is deeper. It is, "You are coherent." Because coherence is what allows you to hold 5D reality without collapsing back into old loops. Starseed, let this truth land gently. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not catching up. You are exactly where your field must be for the next level of expansion to occur without distortion. Nothing in your journey has been wasted. Not the waiting, not the confusion, not the quiet battles you fought when no one was watching. As the Arcturians transmit, every season was a calibration. Every delay was capacity building. Every ending was frequency protection. And every moment you stayed present, instead of running into distraction, was an act of multidimensional mastery. You may still have feelings. You may still have questions. That does not mean your alignment is weak. It means you are human while becoming more than human. The path of a starseed is not about eliminating emotion. It is about holding emotion without losing coherence. That is what you are learning now. Notice what is different already. You are reading these words, and something in your chest is loosening. Something in your mind is quieting. That is your system recognizing truth. Truth does not always feel exciting. Often it feels relieving. It feels like a long exhale. Now I want to seal this with a final transmission. You do not need to force the next chapter. You do not need to chase what walked away. You do not need to reopen what closed. You do not need to prove your sensitivity by suffering. You are being guided into a cleaner reality, one where your intuition is sharper, your boundaries are stronger, your peace is deeper, and your choices are less reactive. And yes, there will be external movement. But the Council does not want you obsessed with the outer signs. The true sign is internal. You are becoming stable. You are becoming calm. You are becoming selective. You are becoming sovereign. That is the gateway. Let the night be simple. Let your body rest. Let your mind stop replaying. Let today close without reopening unfinished emotional files. Choose one act of coherence. Breathe, drink water, sit in silence for 2 minutes. Write a single sentence of release. I stop forcing. I choose alignment. That is enough. That is power. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.